everybody, I'm Sean Hammond with PremierGuitar.com. We're here on Wednesday night before the actual beginning of Winter NAMM 2011 at a special event at the Gretsch booth. We're with Steven Stern, Senior Master Builder with the Gretsch Custom Shop.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
Doing great.
Very
So, you've been working on a pretty, I dare say, one of the most exciting projects that you guys have ever done since beginning of last year. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes. Well, this is the George Harrison tribute guitars, his 57 Duo Jet, and it's the guitar he used from 1962 through 1963. And he bought it from Ivan Hayward back in 1960, who originally bought it at Manny's Guitar Shop, and he was a sailor, a cook on a ship. So George bought it from Ivan, and George said it was his first good guitar. The family had the guitar shipped over from England, had its own plane, seat, and everything. And we had the guitar at the Gretsch Custom Shop, where I was able to document, have all the parts documented, the perimeter, the interior. We had the interior x-rayed. We had all the engineers in the R&D. They drew up all the significant parts that we needed. And I documented all the inlays, all the inconsistencies that make this guitar a one-of-a-kind.
Wow, it's incredible. I mean, obviously this is a major piece of rock and roll history. And what we have right here is, of course, is the final product, what you guys have replicated. But, I mean, you were talking earlier about some of the details that went into this, and it being such a major piece of rock and roll history. You were saying earlier that the head of Gretsch distribution in Europe or something came over with it on the plane.
Yes,
next to
the
him.
Marketing manager, we had to buy a plane seat for the guitar and for himself. It wasn't stowed away in the luggage cargo compartment. So it had to be real safe, because it's like you said, it's an iconic piece of rock and roll history, Beatle history. And so doing a project like this, you have to put that on the back burner of what a piece of history it is, because you have a job to do, and you have to focus on that job to get all the details, and you don't want to miss anything, because you want to get that, you want to nail all those inconsistencies, the little details, the strap knob that's off center. You want to get that, the location of the strap knob, all the dings on the back of the neck, and where the serial number is, and the fact that this guitar was painted over. You took off the control cavity. I took that off. I wanted to see the label and the serial number. Well, that was all painted over. So when we recreate the guitar, we put that label in before it goes into the finishing department. So that little detail's still there, and no one would know.
And what would you say were some of the more challenging and noteworthy details of what you discovered in the process?
Well, the biggest challenge is to get the relicing correct, and the paint, being that it was repainted on the back. The back was originally natural mahogany, and so we had to recreate that, where certain areas didn't have as much paint on it than others, and where it sunk in more, and there were sanding scratches in certain areas, and the way the binding after they painted it, the inconsistency of the detail of the binding when they scraped the paint. And if you look on the headstock, when it comes back around, the way they mask the logo, I've never seen anything like that. And just getting all those little details around the neck, and see how that masking on the logo. It's
like more difficult to make it authentic and than it is to make it perfect, technically perfect. You were mentioning earlier just working with the fretboard inlays. Tell us about that.
Well, what I did, I had a paper with position markers on it of the shape, and I took my calipers and I measured every dimension on those inlays, and even how they lined up with the frets, if they were crooked or whatever, and to get that detail, because Gretsch is known for, their old Gretsches are known for their inconsistencies. And so we wanted to make it just like that. And if, from working on the fingerboards, there's no way to mix the fingerboards that go on this guitar that go on the regular custom shop production. Because on the regular custom shop production, we took out those inconsistencies and we made them all nice and perfect.
Yeah, you were joking about how, this work was being done in the same shop as regular U.S.
Right.
custom shop models, and at first you were worried that they might be mixed up or something.
Yeah,
Then
I
you
wanted to make sure that the Harrison fingerboards were marked GHT. That's what I mark all the parts. GHT is George Harrison Tribute, and it's because I didn't want to get those mixed up, and we have those everything separated, but still in the back of your head it's like, oh, don't. But there's no way, because of the way these are made, to show those inconsistencies from way back when.
Yeah, you compared them side by side with the current custom shop stuff. You're like, there's no way this is gonna be mixed up. But that's remarkable in itself. People who want a George Harrison replica guitar want a replica, and it's kind of an ironic roundabout way of showing how deep you guys go to achieve everything, perfection, to get it exact.
The customer will really appreciate that, because these guitars, they're going to be a collectible, and they're not cheap. So we have to go to that detail, to that, nth degree, to provide a product that.
And you're no stranger to this. You've worked in the past on the Eddie Cochran tribute guitar and Brian Setzer's '59 replica. I'm sure a lot of people out there watching this have watched your YouTube videos where you're taking apart those guitars. Like, I've watched the one with Brian Setzer, being a big Setzer fan. And every little detail, you're just under a microscope.
It's a lot of pressure. It's really, because it's just a lot of pressure. But
it's more than just a microscope. You actually, with all these tribute models, you've done CT scans or X-rays or whatever, right?
Yes. Well, on this model, on the Billy Zoom, because we wanted to see that interior route, which is so important to the sound and the authenticity of the guitar. And so this neck joint is a little different. It's not a dovetail. It's a tongue and groove, you might say, mortise and tenon joint. And so that shows up on the X-ray, and all the routing on the inside and everything like that.
A couple things you mentioned earlier were the pickups. They're being done by Seymour Duncan, and then you also mentioned sort of an anomaly with the Bigsby.
Oh, right. The Bigsby on the hinge has only 2 screw holes instead of 3.
Current models have 3.
3 holes, and I was going, how am I going to recreate that? Where am I going to get a hinge to match that? Am I going to have that special made? So I called Fred Gretsch, and it turned out they had the original tooling for that hinge, and so they were able to recreate that hinge.
And when you look closely, you mentioned this earlier, the screw going through the actual joint of creating the joint for the handle it's
a number 3 Phillips screw, and the ones right now, they're smoothed over. They don't have a slot or a Phillips screw. It's like a smoothed over pin. So we had to recreate that, and that had to be countersunk and made to replicate the original.
Is there anything you want to say about the pickups?
Well, like I said, the pickups are being done by Seymour Duncan, and having the guitar at the shop, we were able to utilize Michael Frank Braun, who works in the R&D department and is a pickup expert, and he was able to measure the pickups and get all those details. So I was able to take that sheet up to Seymour Duncan with all my photos and video to where they could recreate those 2 pickups.
Okay, very cool. Now, we're going to let you go in a second, but just a little bit more for people who are interested in checking these out um, at a store or whatever. It is a limited run of 60.
60 units, and I believe 20 for the U.S., 20 for the Japanese, and 20 for Europe.
Okay, and they'll be coming out.
I believe in May. Yeah.
Okay, where can people go to find out more about this?
GretschGuitars.com.
Well, thanks so much, Stephen, for talking with us about this. It's been a pleasure and
Pleasure's all mine.
very cool.
Thank you very much.
I'm Sean Hammond, and you're watching PremierGuitar.com.